that this Jesus began to heal them of their diseases. That he began to counsel them. He began to act as a pastor ought to act. All right. Bible says that he ministered all day long. And the Bible says that it was the people had been there so long and the disciples became concerned because they were in a hamlet community. There was not any grocery stores in the community. There was not a convenience store where you could go and get some bologna and some soda crackers. There wasn't a place for them to find something to eat because they were on the backside of the woods. The Bible says that the disciples came to Jesus and they said, Master, you need to let the people go so they can go home or they can go wherever and find them something to eat. And Jesus said, no, we don't have to do that. Right. They said, Master, what do you mean we don't have to do that? He said, we don't have to do that. They said, well, Master, we don't have enough food to feed them. Right. Bible says that Jesus told them, he said, go and get what you have. Yeah. The Bible lets us know that they had a few barley loaves. The Bible says that they had 5 loaves of bread. Yes. And they had 2 fish. All right. And the Bible lets us know that Jesus started breaking it up. Now you see, they had quite a crowd there at church that day. All right. The Bible says that Jesus told them to sit out on the lawn. Yeah. We're going to have a picnic today. Get your blanket. We're going to have a picnic today. And the Bible says that Jesus began to break the bread. And the Bible says that there were about 5,000 men there. But you must understand that during this time, they only counted the men. Right. They didn't count the women and the children. Matter of fact, the men ate on one side, and the women and the children ate on another side. So we know that there were 5,000 men there, but there could have been as well as 5,000 to 6,000 children and women there. But the Bible says that Jesus just began to break the bread. And they began to pass the bread. And he began to break the bread. And he kept on breaking the bread. And he kept on breaking up the fish and dividing up the fish. And the Bible says that he fed all of them folks with just 2 pieces of fish and 5 barley loaves. And the Bible lets us know that not anybody went away from there hungry. All right. Bible says that after he finished feeding them, then he told the disciples to get on the boat. And y'all go on over yonder. I'll be there after a while. All right. And the Bible says that they took off just as Jesus had instructed them. And the Bible says that Jesus went off to be by himself. Keep in mind, Jesus' heart was still broken over the loss of his cousin, John the Baptist. Keep in mind, Jesus was still mourning the loss of his cousin, but beyond that, he was his friend, John the Baptist. Every now and then, you ought to go sit by the river yourself. Every now and then, we all ought to and need to go into our prayer closet that we might commune with God for ourselves. Every now and then, you ought to set a little time aside that you might have a conversation with your God. Jesus went and got to himself so he could commune with God. The Bible says that the disciples had moved on a little further. And the Bible says that while they were moving in the river, moving in the lake, that the winds began to blow. And see, they had moved so far into the middle of the lake, they couldn't hardly see the land around them. And the Bible says the wind began to beat up on the side of the boat. And the Bible says that they began to become fearful because the winds and all of a sudden the storms start to rage in your life, and you get fearful on the inside. If